And there's a wonderful footnote, because his daughter goes off to Harvard, and she goes off to the east, and she comes to a snowy place like Cleveland, and she thinks, I can wear flip-flops in the snow because they'll be like snowshoes. I can sort of balance on the... She was quickly disabused of this notion in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and she willfully fails freshman biology because she can't stand the thought of going back into medicine, because that's her dad's work, but the gravitational pull was too great. She winds up back in UCSF Medical School. And she's now at the second year. But last year, she invites her dad to come speak. And she panics on the eve of the speech. She thinks no one's going to show up. But she had to figure out how many people were going to come in order to buy sandwiches. She said, well, I'll buy 25. We'll have some left over. 60 people show up. 60 students show up to pay honor to this man. And I asked Pablo, what was it like? He said, you know, the day I spoke to Kai's class in medical school, I felt like a king. And so he is. Thanks very much.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to a Friday forum featuring Stephen Roberts, professor, columnist, TV and radio analyst, and best-selling author of the book From Every End of This Earth, 13 Families and the New Lives They Made in America. We will return to our speaker in a minute for our traditional City Club questions. Please formulate your questions now, and let me remind you to keep them brief and to the point. We welcome you to this City Club forum. For those listening to today's forum through one of our broadcast partners, we want to remind you that all are welcome here to attend City Club forums. Please visit our website to see a full schedule of our upcoming programs. Our greetings go to those present in this room, especially to our guests. We hope you will join the City Club and become active in our ongoing civic dialogue. We welcome guests at tables hosted by the American Jewish Committee, Baker Hostetler, Greater Cleveland Partnership, and TIE Ohio, our program partner for the Stephen Roberts Forum. Thank you for joining us today. Today is the Sadie and Morris Friedman Forum, made possible by a generous gift from the late Howard R. Berger and Robert M. Lustig. Joining us at the head table today are Bob Lustig, friend of the family, and Alan Gross of the Jewish Community Federation. Will you please both stand and be recognized? Now we would like to return to our speaker for our question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphones today are City Club PR Programs Manager Carrie Miller and Membership Manager Deborah Agasti. First question, please.
Mr. Roberts, great tales. Well done. It is a source of some angst to hear stories like yours and to know really many other, some less dramatic, but still very moving stories of people who have come from other countries and done well here, and to look at our southern border especially and see a big fence. And yet, an immigration policy depends on doing something other than letting everybody in. And I haven't read deeply enough to know truly how I feel about barriers. But I wonder if you have contemplated that question and have come to perhaps reluctantly accept the notion that if you're going to decide who can come in, you have to have some ability to decide who has to stay out. Could you comment?
Sure. It's a very fair question. And I agree with the premise of it. I don't think we as a country can afford unlimited immigration. I think there should be some controls. That's both a moral question and it's a political question. Because if there's going to be any significant attempt at legislation that provides a path to citizenship for people who are here illegally, the predicate of that is controlling the borders. The President understands that. The Secretary of Homeland Security understands that. One of the reasons why Janet Napolitano, a former governor and former Attorney General of Arizona, was picked for that job is because she has credentials as a law enforcement officer. So as much as this president supports the notion, as he said in his own inaugural address, our patchwork nation is a strength, not a weakness. He's a very strong supporter of immigration. Obviously, as you all know, his father was an immigrant himself. In fact, the title of this book, From Every End of This Earth, is a quote from Obama's inaugural. So he understands this very well, but he also understands the predicate, the beginning of the conversation has to start with law enforcement. I do strongly support the idea that we should find a way to legalize the 12 million who are here illegally. Let's start with the fact that 3 million of them are children. And of the 9 million who adults, many of them have American-born children. So if you start throwing people out, you're ripping families apart. You're ripping families apart. Beyond that, every study shows that even illegal immigrants contribute more to the economy than they take away. Now, I am not naive about this. I understand in certain places at certain times, illegal immigrants can overwhelm the school system, can overwhelm a given hospital. That's true. But from every macro point of view, we get far more benefit from these newcomers than they take away from the system. I know there are people in this room who are working, and Asi's story is a perfect example, but there are folks in this room who understand this about Cleveland, that the great job-creating engines that's going to help secure the future of Cleveland and work for your children is going to come from immigrant entrepreneurs like Dr. Banerjee. And this is, and it's not, his example is on the high-tech side, but it goes down to the local 7-Eleven. I mean, where are jobs being created in this country? An astounding number are being created by immigrants. So I think it's in our own national interest, while controlling the borders, to also help people who are here illegally legalize. But there's one other point I'll make quickly, and that is that the policies of legal immigration have to be fixed too. And the single biggest, in my view, mistake we make as a country is something called the H-1B visa program, which is visas which are allotted to businesses and others to keep people who are often graduates of American universities like Case and like the other great universities in Ohio. They get degrees, as Asi's did, from Case in chemistry, and we're making it harder and harder for these people to stay here and do their work here and create businesses. There is no barrier to ideas in the world. Ideas can go from country to country to country. And I quote this very insightful economist in my book who says, if we don't reform that system, if we don't raise the quota and allow far more of these foreign-born scientists and computer programmers and innovators stay in this country and create products and create jobs, the next Silicon Valley will be in Shanghai or in Mumbai. It will not be in California or in Cleveland. And that would be an American tragedy, because we're not going to compete on the world stage on price. We're not going to be able to make certain products cheaper than Bangladesh. We're not going to do that. We're going to prosper because we're the smartest and most innovative and creative economy in the world. And to be that, we have to have the best people from anywhere in the world. Bill Gates goes to Congress every year and pleads for Congress to lift the limit on H-1B visas. Why? Because, as he points out, 30% of Microsoft's patents come from the work of foreign-born engineers. 30%. This is one of the great job-creating engines in the American economy, Microsoft. And if we don't keep them here, if we don't make this possible for them, they're going to go to Germany and Canada and all these other countries who know how valuable these people are and are making a very concerted effort to woo them away from us. This is, in my view, of all the policies in the American government, one of the really stupidest. And that's a political science term. So, so I will start by agreeing with the premise of your question. We do have to keep some people out. We have to put limits on it. But we also have to make sure that the very best minds and the most ambitious and the most creative come here, because our future, economic future, depends on it.